Stoddard Lives, a weekly show that focuses on the services provided by Stoddard Baptist Nursing Home and Stoddard Baptist Global Care, two homes located in the District of Columbia. We are joined today by the host of the show, Stephen Nash, President and CEO of Stoddard Baptist Home Foundation, a 501c3 organization that is the supportive arm of all Stoddard Baptist programs. Here now is Dr. Nash.
Good morning, all. Welcome to Stoddard Lives, Stoddard Live. We're here every Tuesday from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock on the flagship radio station of the land, 1340 AM, following the famous Winston Cheney. Always have to give him definitely a shout out for the work he does, and the Radio 1 family for allowing Stoddard to be here today again. With you all to share some great information about what we do at Stoddard Baptist Foundation. So we welcome everyone again to Stoddard Live, Stoddard Live. And we have a very special show today. We have, this month has been the celebration, we can say, of learning a lot about a very, very important issue, and that is minority mental health. And it's Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. And it's a very, very important issue, something that we as minorities really don't pay that much attention to sometimes, but when we do have these situations, it does have a devastating effect on our community. So we're going to have Dr. Olele kind of talk about this. He is a board certified psychiatrist. He specializes in anxiety, depression, ADHD, and other common mental health conditions. So we'll have him up in a few minutes. But before we get into the show, I just want to make sure that you know who we are, Stoddard Baptist Foundation. Our mission is to form and sustain safe, viable, and caring communities for those in need. And since our humble beginnings in 1902, Stoddard has evolved into an organization which can now care for over 400 of our older friends throughout our entities of care. And we believe in serving our community and are very fortunate to have the support of many local churches, corporations, private foundations, and our families. Our facilities in DC are many. I'll share with you their locations and what we try to do every day in the facilities in DC and in Maryland that we have. We have Stoddard Baptist Global Care at 2601 18th Street in Northeast Washington, DC. Telephone number there is 202-541-6200. 259 of our older friends call Stoddard Baptist Global Care their home. And there is a dialysis center there. There's Seabury Transportation Services. There's a beautiful campus. And if you're looking for employment, looking for volunteer opportunities, if you're looking for a safe place to place your loved one, Stoddard Baptist Global Care is in Northeast Washington, D.C. at 2601 18th Street in Northeast Washington, D.C. Again, the telephone number there is 202-541-6200. And we have Stoddard Baptist Global Care and Stoddard Baptist Nursing Home at 1818 Newton Street in Northwest Washington, D.C. The telephone number there is 202-328-7400, 202-328-7400. There at Stoddard Baptist Nursing Home in Northwest, we have 164 of our elder friends that call Stoddard Baptist Nursing Home their home. And there, as well as Stoddard Baptist Global Care, we have all skilled nursing services available, rehabilitative services as well. And I forgot to mention the Stoddard Baptist Global Care has an Alzheimer's unit as well called Bloomingdale's right there on the campus. So we have a very diverse amount of services at our two skilled nursing facilities in DC. And for those of you who are in a situation where you have your caregiver and you need a little break, we have short-term respite programs at both of those places where you could come and have your loved one stay with us for a few days, a week, a couple of weeks, a month, couple of months, whatever you need to have a chance to get away and refresh a little bit, because caregiving is a very difficult job, difficult things for us to do, but the time to get away to refresh yourself is very important in that particular process. We have the Marigold, our assisted living facility at 2905 11th Street in Northwest Washington, D.C. We call it the Marigold at 11th Street, right there in Columbia Heights, part of the district, on the corner of 11th and Harvard Street. 202-671-6553 is a number there. We also have Presidential Estates at Sycamore Hill. Presidential Estates at Sycamore Hill is at 3911 Lotsford Vista Road in Mitchellville, Maryland. The address there is 3911 Lotsford Vista Road, Mitchellville, Maryland. And there we have several acres of land there that we're developing into an assisted living facility, 78 apartment units, and also an adult daycare component as well. We're going to need about $20 million to get that project off the ground. So we're going to ask our listening audience to think about donating your time and your talent and treasure to help us meet that goal in 3 years of when we open that facility up. We want to make sure that $20 million debt is erased, and we're able to focus in on the needs of our residents at the time. So those are our facilities right now. We have a lot of other things that are going on within our organization. If you want to find out more about Stoddard, you can go to our website at StoddardBaptistFoundation.org. That's STODDARD, BaptistFoundation.org. STODDARD, BaptistFoundation.org. There you can find out all about our management services. You can see more about our location. You can find out about history of our organization as a 501c3 organization that is African American owned and run, and all the works that we are doing, articles about us, again, history, news, events, and so on and so forth. Speaking of an event that is coming up, we do have an event coming up in September. So we have the second annual Sail with Stoddard, where we get on the National Elite and the National Harbor on Friday, September 20th from 6 to 9:30 p.m. Sail with Stoddard is a wonderful event. The National Elite is a new boat out there on the Potomac River from the National Harbor. It is absolutely fabulous, and we invite everyone to come join us. Last year the boat was sold out very quickly, so we say go to the website right away to find out more about the event. Again, Sail with Stoddard, Friday, September 20th, 6 to 9:30 p.m. on the National Elite, coming from the National Harbor in Maryland. And again, you can go to the website, click on events, and you will be able to get all the information regarding that, how to get your tickets, directions, RSVP card, all those good things are right there on the website as well. You can always just give us a call. Call Keisha Clark at 202-328-7400 as well. If you want to find out more about Sail with Stoddard, again, Keisha Clark at 202-328-7400. All right. So we have online Dr. Olele, who's going to join us as we come to the end of this very important topic, which is Minority Mental Health Month and Minority Mental Health Awareness. Very important topic. So we want to say good morning to Dr. Olele. Dr. Olele, good morning.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm great, Mr. Nash. Thank you for having me on the show.
Well, thank you for joining us today. It's good to have you here today, and good that you are spending some time away from your busy time to come talk to us and our audience to really tap into this very, very, very important topic, minority mental health awareness. So I did share a little bit about your background so people can kind of know who you are a little bit, but I just spend a little time telling the 1340 audience today who you are and where you practice and so on and so forth.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my name is Ifeanyi Olele. I'm from Nigeria. My family's from Nigeria, and I'm of Igbo descent. I grew up in Southern California, and I had an opportunity to go to UCLA. And I was a psychobiology major. And after my time at UCLA, I went to the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. Mm-hmm. And from there, I went to Larkin Community Hospital, where I trained as a psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. And presently, I'm the CEO of Genesis Psychiatric Solutions, and I'm also a medical director of some outpatient mental health clinics here in Prince George County, Maryland. But overall, I'm very passionate about mental health. Mm-hmm. It's my calling, mm-hmm. and I'm glad that God has led me in this direction where I could be able to practice and meet my patients, and where I get to meet them and be patient-centered care, and I'm able to be with them on their journey for mental health.
Very good. So, do you want to talk a little bit about your clinics, so people can kind of know where you are and maybe the location of your clinics and so on and so forth?
Yeah. So, Genesis Psychiatric Solutions, we're located in McLean, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., mm-hmm. and I'm able to meet my patients where they're at, and I also provide telepsychiatry services, which is similar to Skype, but it's HIPAA protected, and I'm able to talk and meet the patients where they're at. So if they can't meet me in my two locations, mm-hmm. they can also meet me online, but at their own convenience. So that's where I'm able to meet with my patients.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. So it makes your practice very accessible these days, and you're using modern technology to really help. And that's very good. That's very good. I didn't know that, so that's good to know. So with this Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, kind of speak to us about some of the mental health issues that affect minorities in the United States of America from the perspective of your practice.
All right. Mr. Nash, right now, a lot of people are going through a lot of stressors in their life. It could be stressors from work-related issues to stressors at school, mm-hmm. stressors with even dealing with their family. So with all these stressors, there's ways people respond to these stressors different ways. So a lot of times, people could be having stressors which lead to depression, anxiety, or even PTSD. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's important for me as a practitioner and other mental health providers to spend time with our patients and to find out what's going on. And in my practice, I'm very holistic in the sense that I take time to know my patients, and I come at it with a mind, body, and spirit approach. And so it's very important for us to see what are the trigger points that lead to mental health conditions.
And so when you talk about stresses, you talked about things that happen at work and at school. Could you expand upon that, how stress may have some impact on our mental health?
Yeah, so
in our overall health, really.
Yeah, so stress, there's natural stress is natural, but then when it becomes where you're not able to handle it and you start overestimating the threats to your life, that's when it can become overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, the patients I meet, when they're stressed at work, it could be due to a boss that is a boss or colleagues that are not treating them well, or their workload has become too overwhelming. They're feeling discriminated at work. They're not able to feel supported. That's when the stress levels increase. With my students, when they're in school as well, the workload that they're receiving is very cumbersome and too much for them to bear, and so they don't have the right coping skills. So with that, that's where the stress comes in, and it could lead them to depression, anxiety, and when it is not treated, it could get worse and impair them.
So in your holistic approach for these situations, I mean, how do you? Is it mainly an approach where you are just focusing on the clinical aspects, where you're prescribing medication, or how do you usually help people with the stress?
So what I do is, again, like with the holistic approach, I take the step from getting to know who they are first by starting to first.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Hello?
Yes, we're here.
Okay. So what I do is, when I speak with my patients, I try to find out where they are at in their life, but I also go back from birth and take it to the present, where I get to find out how they grew up, how they handle stressors, when was turning points in their life, and with that, they feel that I'm taking an investment in them, and then we're able to look at to see if medications are the right option for them. So if we could focus on therapy and find ways we could develop coping skills. And in regards to medications, if they have tried medications and they had some bad interactions with them, a lot of times I would recommend a pharmacogenetics test.
Okay.
And in recommending a pharmacogenetics test, we'll get to see how their genes and the drugs interact with each other.
Okay.
And we can make a new treatment.
All right. So so you're really getting into some really deep type of treatment for folks. Now, the mental health month really focuses on, and I think that's kind of tapping into that. The theme that they're tapping on for the month of July is the depth of my identity campaign. Depth of my identity campaign, and I think you're speaking to that in your holistic approach, where they say that our identities are formed by not only what we believe to be true, but also the views of others around us, and they say in many ways very specific communities, oftentimes referred to as marginalized, people of color, minority, are seen as victims or as broken. And are you seeing this true in your practice when you see and minorities that come to you? Are you seeing people that are broken or challenged in different ways because of what society has kind of presented around them?
Yeah, Mr. Nash, definitely I do see this in my practice, because a lot of times, like minorities not a monolith. All minorities come from all forms of countries and backgrounds, and so a lot of times they're receiving stressors based off of the way they speak, the way they practice their religion, the way they look like, and based on when they're in their work environment or academic environment, they're dealing with situations where they're the only minority in the office, the only minority in the school or in their class, and these stressors are heightened. And when you don't have somebody that you can relate to, or a school system or a job that doesn't understand you as a person, you could feel lonely. And with loneliness, this could lead into some mental health conditions. And if you have been predisposed to a mental health condition and then you're in this environment which heightens it, it can make it worse. So that's why it's very important for schools, jobs to support their clients, their employees and students in this, and having a more diverse environment and having programs, policies to support them. And that's where I do get a lot of my minority patients having these problems, and it's overwhelming when you feel like nobody understands you or gets you, or you're misunderstood because of the way you have your hair, the way you talk, the way you dress, the music you listen to, the food that you eat. And nobody wants to feel like they're an oddball, but people want to feel included.
Yeah, that's very important. Now, with Stoddard mainly dealing with elderly and folks that may have dementia or some many illnesses that have affected them over time, kind of turn into the table here in terms of the mental health issues here. Are you seeing, and also let's speak about the resident first, but let's also think about the caregivers and also think about the staff that care for them, because there's a triangle that goes on there between the resident, the family, and the caregiver, because that family member has to turn over that role now to someone else. How in that triangle, first starting with the resident, that may have had some of the experiences you just talked about, and the stressors that may have contributed to illnesses that they're affected by now. How can this mental health awareness and mental health therapy help them in that situation? And then we'll come back to the caregiver, and then the two caregivers in this situation. If I threw a lot out there, so let's focus on that resident first, that older friend that may need your services. What are you seeing from that perspective?
Yeah, so from that perspective, we're dealing with people that have a declining physical and even mental health. Mm-hmm. So this is a new arena for them, where these may have been people who were very independent, mm-hmm. vivacious, right. And all of a sudden, this physical health has creeped up on them, their mental health has creeped up on them, where they're not able to remember things, mm-hmm. Their language is changing, their thoughts are not the same as they were or sharp as before. Mm-hmm. So it could be problematic, and even to some people's pride. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times when they're finding themselves where they can't remember to turn off the stove off, or it's asking, did I turn off the iron off? Mm. So that's when they know that they're becoming a hazard to their safety, not only their safety, but their family's safety. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of times when they do come to nursing homes or not, they're like, what has happened? Like, where did this come from? Why me? Mm-hmm. And so from a resident's perspective, it could be very scary, and it's where they felt like they could had it all as when they were a little bit younger, mm-hmm. But dealing with the mental health and the physical health stuff they can't do anymore. That could be depressing and mm-hmm. anxiety provoking for some people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in those situations, the holistic approach really is very important. I can imagine with them when you have them in your clinics, in your care. We have seen an evolution of mental health services and psychiatric services for the elderly over the past probably 20 years, where medication was heavily used in the past, and now we're seeing a lot more, I guess, innovative ways with therapy and other approaches, so that medication is kind of like the last resort in many cases. What are you seeing in that situation?
Yeah, when I see patients, I've always taken from the approach of each patient. I treat each patient differently, and I customize their care and make sure it's very personalized. Mm-hmm. So there are times where a patient may benefit from medications, and there's other times where therapy may be the best starter first before mm-hmm. you approach medication. So it all depends where the patient is at in regards to what they need at that time and moving forward. And mm-hmm. so it's very important to collaborate care with family members, their primary care providers, and their other specialists to make sure everybody's on the same page. Right. And if we do feel that therapy is the best component, then therapy will be initiated. If it's medication management and therapy, then we move forward with that.
Mm-hmm. Very good, very good. So now going to the caregiver, and that is a challenge. I was sharing earlier that the caregiver burnout is a very important thing that we focus on, because many times we will see the caregiver come to a skilled facility before that resident, because the caregiver gets so stressed out from providing the care. And this has happened many, many, many times. We have seen it happen. talk a little bit about some of the things that caregivers need to be aware of, and how they can help themselves and do different things to relieve that stressor that can cause issues down the road.
So, yeah, this is a very important topic because I do treat patients that are caregivers to their parents or uncles and aunts. So a lot of times it's when they, the uncles or aunts or whoever the relative is, they communicate what their actions, what they want, and their, if they're unable to make medical decisions or financial decisions or legal decisions based off of their mental illness or incapacity. A lot of times, not having that conversation or some directives not in place, that could cause problems not amongst the caregiver, but also his siblings and cousins, like how they're going to proceed with care with the loved one, and that's where sometimes internal family arguments and conflicts emerge. So having first, before a situation progresses where the relative cannot take care of themselves, having those conversations of how to proceed with certain actions, it would be vital. Then also for the caregiver, once they're in the situation, I feel it's important for them to see if they could delegate responsibilities with other family members to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And so it's not overwhelming.
Right.
Because I've had patients that it all fell on them, and their anxiety, depression, or even any mental health condition they already have gets heightened and increased. And then they start declining in their life at work, socially, personally. So I think it's important for caregivers to have self-care, and that's very important for them to make sure that they're still taking care of themselves, such as exercising, getting adequate amount of sleep, hydrating themselves well, eating right, and maintaining their faith. And if faith is part of life, make sure they're continuing going to church and maintaining the support groups, because it can be very overwhelming dealing with a loved one that you loved very much, and you saw them in a particular form and good health, and all of a sudden they're declining in their mental and physical health.
Yeah, that's very, very important. I'm glad to hear you say that, and I know from a personal perspective, I've gone through this with caring for an aunt, and also currently with caring for my father. So it's and very good to hear that we're kind of on the right track. We're not all the way there, so I'm able to come talk to you myself. but it is a very important thing that we all stay connected and know that sometimes that we can't do it all. We definitely can't do it all. So hold on for 1 second. We're going to do a quick started break. Dr. Olele, I just have a few more questions for you. We're on a great track here. I want to kind of talk about caregiving, that third triangle of the caregiving in a nursing home, the employees and what they need to do. But if you just hold on for a second with me, we're going to do some started commercials here, and then we'll get right back with you, okay? Just for those that are tuning in today to 1340 a.m., you're joining us live here at Stoddard Live. We're here every Tuesday from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. We're here to talk about the services that we provide at Stoddard Baptist Foundation. We always have some special guests today. We have Dr. Olele, who's a psychiatrist, a board-certified psychologist. We're having a great conversation with him today as we celebrate Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. And we're focusing on the theme of depth of my community, of my identity campaign that they have. If you want to find out more about Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, there's a wonderful webpage out there with mentalhealthamerica.net, mentalhealthamerica.net, and it's a / Minority Mental Health Month. There's all types of great things. You can download their wonderful brochure that talks about Death of My Identity campaign that they're celebrating this month. We have all types of options that are tied into that, different programs, taking a screening online and finding help in your area, because I know we have folks that listen from all over the world here. The Mental Health America.net website can help you with that and help you do more, learn more, how you can donate to their event and other news and events that are happening around mental health, specifically mental health in America and minority mental health awareness here as we celebrate in July. We're going to make sure that we take that minority mental health website and tap it into ours at Stoddard Baptist Foundation. So you'll be able to click on to that as well, because it's very important for all of us as caregivers and as one day may be a resident of Stoddard or a nursing facility to have ways that we can deal with mental health and its various forms. Stoddard's mission is to form and sustain safe, viable, and caring communities for those in need. And since our humble beginnings in 1902, Stoddard has evolved into an organization which can now care for over 400 of our older friends throughout our entities of care. We believe in serving our community and are very fortunate to have the support of many local churches, corporations, private foundations, and families. We are 5-star rated facilities by CMS and DC Department of Health. Let me tell you a little bit about our different facilities we have in Washington, D.C. We have Stoddard Baptist Global Care at 2601 18th Street in Northeast. 259 of our older friends live at Stoddard Baptist Global Care at 2601 18th Street in Northeast. We have a wonderful facility there. We have a dialysis center there. We have the Seabury Transportation is there. We have an Alzheimer's dementia unit called Bloomingdale's there as well. Telephone number there is 202-541-6200. We also have Stoddard Baptist Nursing Home. It's 1818 Newton Street in Northwest Washington, D.C. Telephone number there is 202-328-7400, 202-328-7400, 1818 Newton Street, where we have 164 of our older friends that call Stoddard Baptist Nursing Home their home. Again, Stoddard Baptist Global Care is in Northeast D.C., and Stoddard Baptist Nursing Home is in Northwest Washington, D.C. You can come visit us at any time. Doors are always open. If you have a ministry in your church, or if you have a group at your job or at your school that wants to come out and do some volunteer work, Stoddard is available for that work. If you're looking for a job, if you're a nurse, certified nursing assistant, if you're a licensed practical nurse or registered nurse or a nurse practitioner, there are positions available for you as well. And we have positions available in different areas. You can tap into our websites specifically for those 2 sites to find out what employment opportunities and volunteer opportunities are there. Or you can just come by and visit, or you can just call us at 202-328-7400, 202-328-7400 if you're near Northwest Washington, D.C., or in Montgomery County, if you're in Prince George's County, or in Northeast Washington, D.C., you can call us at 202-541-6200 to find out opportunities we have there. We also have 2 assisted living projects, the Marigold at 11th Street in Northwest Washington, D.C., that is at 2905 11th Street, Northwest Washington, D.C. Telephone number there is 202-671-6553. That's 202-671-6553. And then we have Presidential Estates at Sycamore Hill, 3911 Lotsford Vista Road in Mitchellville, Maryland. We have 9 acres of land there. We're developing into an assisted living community that will focus in on caring for those with dementia and Alzheimer's. It'll be open up in about 3 years. So we'll need staff, we'll need volunteers. We'll need all the support from churches and businesses. We've recently moved some of our offices out there so we can be closer to the county and connect more with the county. We'll have all that information for you where we are there at our next show when we talk next week. Next week, we're going to have a show with our chair of the board of Stoddard Baptist Foundation, have a conversation between he and I next week. Reverend, newly ordained Reverend Binkley Garrison will join us next week on the show, Stoddard Lives, Stoddard Live, from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. And again, he and I will have a conversation about all the things that we're doing. And he even has some questions about me and my upbringing. He says, Deacon Nash, you're always interviewing other people. We need to make sure people know who you are as well. So come join us. That's going to be a very good show next week here at Stoddard Lives, Stoddard Live. Now, we've had this wonderful show and a time to talk to Dr. Olele, who is a board-certified psychiatrist who has offices in McLean, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. He even shares he can tap into his care modality through telemedicine, which is pretty awesome that he's able to stay connected with his patients in all these different ways. So we're blessed to have him with us today. I want to say thank you to Captain Beverly Dandridge, who's a member of Holy Redeemer, but also who joined us on the show last week. She talked about preparing for any emergencies and so on and so forth. And again, we had another emergency last night, trees down and all kind of craziness and power outages and so on and so forth all over the country and in the DMV. And I hope that everybody has taken that show to heed and got your emergency packages all ready to go and have your emergency things all ready for anything that potentially could happen this summer with all these storms and power outages and everything. We want to minimize that inconvenience as much as we possibly can. Tongue is getting tired now. But we're back with Dr. Olele. Are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Very good, Gary. Thanks for being patient with us as we did our little starter commercial there. We appreciate your time. And we forgot to mention, again, the sale with Stoddard. I hope that Dr. Olele, you'll have your tickets all ready to go to join us on September 20th down at the National Elite at the National Harbor on September 20th from 9 to 9:30. I hope you'll join us on that nice cruise we do, dinner cruise. Last year was the first one we did, and I think it was the first year that the National Elite had been out. And everybody was surprised because everybody's heard about the Odyssey and they heard about the Spirit of Washington, but not too many people heard about the National Elite, which is a fabulous yacht. And so I'm challenging you on air, Doctor, to come join us. But I'm just joking with you because I know you're a busy man, and if you can join us, we hope that we'll have you there. And also, we want to open the lines up. If anyone wants to call in to say anything to a good doctor today, the telephone number is 240-638-5430, 240-638-5430. So you can feel free to call in to ask doctor any question about any of your mental health awareness issues. So let's get back to where we were. We were talking about that triangle that happens in the nursing home where you have the resident, we have the caregiver that have been responsible for that resident in the community, and now we have a new caregiver that is working in the nursing home, caring for that resident. And there are stressors that the employees go under, that those that are doing the day-to-day care, certified nursing assistants, licensed practical nurses, the folks that are delivering the food, our registered nurses, nurse practitioners, our physicians. The list goes on of people that come in contact with our residents on a day-to-day basis. Could you speak to some of the stressors that could happen and what employees need to be conscious of in terms of their mental health, or our mental health, rather?
Yeah, no problem. And I'm glad that you highlighted that there's different people interacting with the residents, because a lot of times people think it's just the nurses that interact. But you highlighted a great point that there are different people, like the food service. Anybody could be interacting with the resident, and a lot of times we develop relationships with the residents because they live there.
Exactly.
And so a lot of times everybody's professional. Everybody comes in to do their job because they're professional, but this is a human services industry.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it
and
is.
So with that, you're dealing with human beings as well. Everybody has their training or their job qualifications to perform their job, but the human aspect of it sometimes can become neglected.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important for the job or the employer to help create seminars and trainings to help empower the staff to understand what may be going on with the residents and the residents' families, and how to deal with conflict, how to deal with a resident that may be not responding well to them, or a resident that is overly that's with them. And so in that regard, having good seminars and programs to help train staff is very vital. And then also with staff, everybody checking in on each other, making sure everybody's fine. And here's another point I'd like to highlight. A lot of people there are some new people that are beginning their transition into the elderly care space, and then there's ones that's been in the elderly care space for years or decades. So everybody has their different levels of what their experience in treating elderly patients. And so that also takes it into shape. Like if you're dealing with somebody new, this may be stressful and overwhelming for them.
Right.
And so it's important to see if there's mentorships that could be established. And so that way they could have somebody they could talk to and reflect on what's going on. So that way a lot of stuff is not being buried inside. So they're not building up on these stressors that are going on. So having an outlet, that's very important for new employees. And for the more seasoned employees, it's important for them to keep them engaged. Also, maybe give them a mentee, somebody they could talk to, so that way they could be re-energized and not be jaded. And also, too, not stuck in a certain way of treatment, but also being open to new ideas and moving on with the time. So that way they have their experience, but also they're learning new techniques to reach to the patient or the resident, and also for themselves not have burnout.
Right.
Because a lot of times, if you've been in the same place or the same environment for a while and there hasn't been any system changes or not, and there could be burnout. So it's very important for employers to engage their seasoned employees, ask for their input, ask for their advice, see what could be done better, and take those critiques, and that way you empower your seasoned employees, and that way they're more energized and able to help reduce burnout because they're at least being heard, and also create opportunities for staff to talk about what's going on in the work environment about certain residents, and allow time for people to collaborate with each other. And also, I feel it's important for employers to create opportunities for staff to have breaks or enjoy each other's company, because it could be a very tough position where you're dealing with people with declining physical and mental health.
Yeah, those are very, very good points that we definitely have to be aware of on a regular basis. I know there are a lot of times that we have those force-fed training programs where people just bend their ears back and have to deal with those. But the human aspect of this is very important. That we have to. We find also another part of this is one thing that really happens when our employees and residents really have that special bond. When a resident passes away, there are stressors there because that employee has a special bond. Even though we say that we are professional, and we're able to deal with this on a regular basis. But that is a stressor that is really honest and true. And when people really care about beyond the tasks that have to be done every day, when people really connect with people, grief is another stressor. So can you give some ideas about grief? Because grief really strikes that whole triangle, because residents are neighbors with other residents, and they become connected with other residents. Family members not only are connected with their loved one, but they connect with the roommate and other people that are around them, and the employees are connected. So when grief strikes, when someone passes away, it is a community that is affected by this. So could you speak to how a community could, in this situation of that triangle in a nursing home, can deal with this particular stress?
Yeah. Grief is a topic that is very personalized, because again, since we're celebrating Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, a lot of people come from different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to take into account, how people from different cultures acknowledge grief.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times, if people don't understand each other, they're like saying, why is such acting this way? Or don't they not care about this person? But that might be the way that in their culture or their upbringing, that's how they grieve for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's very a topic that I think employers and teammates should be sensitive about and aware about in that regard. And in general, a lot of people grieve different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Some, it's very internal, or some prefer to talk about the person that just passed away a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to recognize everybody's grieving patterns
Mm-hmm.
and behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
But as an employer overall, it'll be good to create a space for staff, the residents, and everybody that's been involved with the person who passed away, an opportunity to at least pay the respects
Mm-hmm.
and share and celebrate the life of the person they all love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very important. I know we at Stoddard, I think one great tool we have to deal with the spiritual side and grief is we have chaplains that are available to meet with the families, to meet with staff, meet with the residents, to help talk to folks from that spiritual side as well. And I know a lot of facilities do not have that available. I can only speak to maybe one other that I'm aware of that actually have chaplains come in on a regular basis to really open themselves up to help that triangle of care kind of have an outlet, a spiritual outlet, to talk about grief and loss and all those type of things as well. So I know that in the holistic approach you're talking about, I know the spiritual side is very important as well. So could you speak a little bit about just the spiritual side of the holistic part of mental health as well?
Oh yeah, I'm glad you brought this up, because I do focus on mind, body, spirit, and
Mm-hmm.
spirit is also a big component of mental health, because
Mm-hmm.
the faith community is very strong, and in that regard, if we tackle mental health, I think a lot of our worshipers and people in our different communities will be at a better level.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of my patients that do come to visit me, their faith is a big part of their life.
Right.
And a lot of times they do pray to God for help, but when they're struggling, they do go to their pastors or other church leadership,
Mm-hmm.
And so going to their faith leaders, they feel that that's the best way to go. And our faith leaders are doing an awesome job counseling and supporting their members. But a lot of times it may be too much past their training in regards to how to handle a more severe mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's important for faith communities or faith centers to have resources on hand for their members to go refer to different type of mental health providers that provide mental health services. And it may be better to to reach out to mental health providers that offer services, faith-based services, such so that way when a patient comes to see a mental health provider, they can feel comfortable at least that somebody understands that faith is part of their life. They're not going to push it aside and say, oh yeah, just take your medicine and therapy and that's it. But having a mental health component or a faith-based component will work wonders because like the saying is, faith without works is dead. So you have your faith, but you also have the works where you're able to go to your therapy sessions, do your homework assignments that the therapist recommends for you, and also following the medication recommendations by the doctor. So that way, that will be helpful. And for me personally, I pray with my patients. My patients, if they allow me to, we pray together and they ask me to pray with them and I pray with them, and that helps put them at ease and they know that I'm on their side and I support them. So that's a big part of my practice as well.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome to know. It's an amazing when we have our medical profession really there from looking at it from all these sides, because a lot of times we just look at it from the clinical side only and maybe some of the social, psychosocial aspect, but it's good to have someone like you who's out there that is actually praying with patients and helping them from that perspective as well. Because for the African American and really many minorities, the faith part is a very important part. And sometimes the faith part can impede things because people will lean so heavily on that and may not feel comfortable going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or someone that can help them with the other side. I know I just went through a particular training last week for spiritual direction, and we were all told that at a certain point we should be more than willing to let go and bring in a trained psychiatrist or psychologist or someone else that can come in and help, and if there's medication and other therapies that need to be there, we can all work together to help that person. And so I know a lot of the religious leaders are out there are really saying that as well, that we can't do it all. We all need to work together and to really focus in on the care, specifically the care of our older people. I had one other point before we get off the phone today, Doc, and get off the air today. I just noticed something that I'm just learning about today, and that is one thing we do in the nursing facility and long-term care is we encourage everyone to have an advanced medical directive and a healthcare power of attorney. But this is the first time after I was looking through the site today that I see that everyone should also have a psychiatric advance directive, just in case they are incapacitated during an illness, a mental illness at that time. So I know if this was in place for a couple of people that I had known, there were a couple of young people that committed suicide, and their parents could not get involved because they were, a little older. They weren't children, they were older, but they're young adults. And the parents could not get access to a lot of things that really helped these young people, and they ended up committing suicide. Speak a little bit about the psychiatric advance directive and how that can help in mental health situations as well.
So in general, with advance directives, there are legal documents in which a person can specify actions that should be taken for their health if they're no longer able to make these kind of decisions. And with a lot of times with mental illness, people, like if they have a severe mental illness where they're not able to make decisions, their decision making is impaired, it's important to have designated who will be able to help with the directives. So that's important. So that might be that's definitely a conversation for potential patients to discuss with their psychiatrist, their primary care director, and even a lawyer or somebody or an organization such as a nursing home that may have more information and resources regarding this. So this is a process that should definitely be discussed amongst the family before these situations arise. And that way people will be better prepared, because a lot of times we're very reactive versus being proactive.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. As I said, I was talking to someone the other day, and they were saying that they noticed that in this particular facility they had skilled nursing and they had assisted living, and they noticed that a lot of the Caucasian residents were in assisted living, and a lot of the African American and other minorities were in the skilled nursing facility. So the question came up, why this has happened? And the basic answer was the Caucasian population spent time planning, getting all these things in place, advanced directives, power of attorney, getting their states in order, and so on and so forth. But we don't think about it until it's a crisis situation. So we end up in the skilled facility because we hadn't planned adequately sometimes. So this is an issue that we all need to be very aware of as minorities, that we need to also be in a state of planning and preparing for our health down the road. We never know what crisis can hit down the road, or what illness can hit our loved ones, ourselves, and so that we can be in the best place we possibly can be. We're coming to the end of the show, Dr. Olele. We really appreciate you coming and joining us for Stoddard Lives, Stoddard Live today. Want to give a shout out to you. I know you have your social media stuff, so you want to give a quick shout out. We're about 30 seconds. Tell us how we can contact you if someone wants to tap into your services. How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can contact us at 703-955-0915. Our website is www.GPSMindset.com. And our social media handles on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook is at GPSMindset.
Thank you so much, Doc. We're closing. We got about 10 seconds. Steve has told us, we want to say thank you very much for joining us for Stoddard Live, Stoddard Live. Join us next week, 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. God bless you. And
thank you, 1340 WICB family, for listening to Stoddard Lives today. To find out more information about Stoddard employment and volunteer opportunities or programs at nursing homes, please give us a call at 202-328-7400 or 202-541-6200. Visit our website at stoddardbaptisthome.org. Email us at stoddardlives@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at Stoddard1902. Like us on Facebook at Stoddard Baptist Nursing Home.
Tune in to the broadcast ministries of the Lord's Church of Transformation each and every Friday at 12:30 p.m. for Lunch with SWAT, service with absolute truth. Pastor Sylvia Peoples of the